Contour 30i is in the house, and I'm hot off a listening session with it right now. Yeah, what a speaker. It's a £7,000, 31 kilogram, 300 watt handling, 4 ohm, 87 dB sensitive speaker. It's quite a big speaker. It's a heavy one. It's expensive. It needs to be good. So I have my book, and I'm going to try and keep this one well under an hour. Yeah, 3 finishes: gloss black, walnut, grey oak. Okay, twin ports to the rear with lovely binding posts. The 20i's got and I'm pretty sure the original Contours as well had a lovely substantial binding post. It's always nice. These are the type of speaker that you could push any banana into and they're not going to move. Right, you're going to need space, and not necessarily for the sound of the speaker. Okay, this is these turn up in huge crates. It's quite notorious within the sort of Dynaudio fraternity that you need more space for the packaging, than you do around the speaker to play it, really. If you haven't got a shed or a garage or a loft with a huge loft hatch, you're going to have to think about the logistics of this speaker. They'll also turn up on a lorry. We would have to ship them on a lorry to you. That's how they get shipped around. All in all, with their packaging, it's around 100 kilo shipment. You need to think about those logistics. If you live down a single track lane with no access to lorries, and you don't have a garage, then you probably need to be schmoozing up one of your locals that does have the space, so you can shift the boxes on and have a bonfire, but carry your speakers in on their own. Alright, so you need to bear that in mind. They do turn up in crates, the 30s, the 60s, the 20s turn up in standard boxes, albeit quite large cardboard boxes, as you've seen in a previous video of mine. Yeah, so you're going to need some space for that. So I've discussed the new tech in the Contour I series in other videos, but just briefly, you've got the Isatar 2i, which is new to the Contour I series, a new Contour tweeter, or a new Isatar tweeter with a Hexus dome specifically for these. You've got the new Nomex Spider on the mid-bass drivers. You've got all the new internal damping in the cabinets. You've got the new bracing in the cabinets. You've got the new crossover design. There is no impedance correction circuit in this crossover because the new drivers stand up to a flatter frequency response. There's no need for that impedance correction, so the crossover board in these is a fair amount simpler than the previous line. So yeah, there are some of the technical differences between the new I line and the non-I line. Alright, I had the benefit of hearing both. So I've heard the original line and I hear this line, and it's a marked step up. Alright. The only other differences between the I line and the non-I line are the cabinet finishes. The cabinet finishes are a marked improvement. Okay, the original line weren't bad, especially like the white sort of ash finish and stuff like that. But there were imperfections in the gloss finishes, and Dynaudio just weren't happy with that. So that's part of the facelift of this product. So I'll give you the opportunity in the comments below. If you want them compared to something, then let me know. Just keep your wits about you. Make sure it's something that we can have our hands on, something that we supply. This is a shop, so we try and keep it within our lines. If you want to see what we provide, then just have a look at the website in the description. Alright? Sound. Delicate sounding, less bombastic than the 20i, more refined, naturally higher levels of output achievable. Okay, so this is something I'll brush on at the end of my description, but the 30i sounds like it has nothing to prove. Okay, the 20i kind of needs to sell itself to you as the bottom speaker in that range. It sounds quite forward and bombastic and nice. It's quite an energetic thing to listen to. These are far more chill than that, far more refined than that. Yet when you lean on them, which you can a lot more than you can the 20i's, which are a loudspeaker in their own right, that refinement and everything just stays composed. It stays just chilled and calm, but much louder, you know. So yeah, that's my sort of, they were my immediate impressions of the speaker, and the comparison between that and the 20i, which is its obvious comparison to me. The 60i is a different beast. So although I will make reference to those, delicate sounding, that's a tricky one, isn't it? I try and remove myself from the sort of listening to it clinically and try and think about the mood that a speaker or sound or the music being reproduced puts me in. And yeah, they are they have more of a relaxing nature than, say, your more sort of energetic and bombastic speaker. So yeah, small but large. Just 3 words, which could mean anything. All right, but they are not a huge floor stander. They are bigger than most, I suppose, where I'm used to large Dyn floor standers. They seem smaller to me. They're around the same size as the Evoke 50, maybe slightly deeper than them, but they're not a huge floor stander, especially when compared to the 60. The 60 is what I would consider to be a large floor stander, but they sound large scale. They really do. They really sound like a much bigger speaker, especially in terms of their volume. You can really wind on them. I was listening to Cayetana's "Certain for Miles," which is a wicked track. It's not an SQ plinky plonky track. It's just an indie sort of track, but it just throws up this like wall, which on some systems can be quite offensive, and muddled and mixed up. But not with these. These can just play it, and they can play it with such sort of force. Yeah, sort of just searing volume that sort of track should be listened to at. And the female vocal is right on edge, and you can hear all of that detail in there as well. So Cayetana, "Certain for Miles," yeah. So take a look at that. I've got in that particular track, very raw, lovely snap to the snare. Very exciting, loud lead vocal on edge, and all emotion captured. That's important, because if you don't have synergy in your system, some of that stuff can be lost, and I don't know if you're like me, but sometimes you're just not completely unengaged by something, and that is, in my opinion, that emotion of music it's just not syncing with you, and it'll be because the synergy in the system, you just don't like the way that sounds, So yeah, we've got something going on here, and with that track, it's it captures all of the sort of emotion in that track. And lovely tight kick drum. It starts with a kick, boom, boom, and it's it's wound a little tighter than most, and it sounds nice, And all that, like I say, is captured top to bottom on the Contour 30i. So yeah. Smooth speaker. So I've double smoothed there, which covers what I was just discussing. It's a very smooth performer in comparison to both the 60i and the 20i, which both have their own characters. I'll cover the 60i in a different review. Yeah, so I'm going to cover a couple of the tracks. Like I say, the "Certain for Miles" track is a crashy indie track with a huge sound. Like I've said, other systems can make mincemeat of it, and it just kind of all just crashes into one big mess. You'll know if your system sounds the way that I would like to hear it, because you will be able to decipher all of those different things. While it is sort of a rocky, grungy mix of instruments, you can pick it out. And like I say, if you can wind on it, it gets a load of fun. Vocal's great in there. And the kick drum's nice too. So a bit more popular track, The Weeknd, "Blinding Lights." I don't listen to much pop music other than stuff that I find really fun to listen to. Things that change my mood are the kind of music that I tend to listen to. So This one, I mean, I like the Weeknd's early stuff. I like their sort of glass tables and things like that. I think it's an incredible trilogy album. That's when he sort of his first album. So, but Blinding Lights has an amazing synth. Like the synth sound from that. I've heard other systems where it can be a little bit muted, a little bit dull. This captures all of that sort of shimmery synth sound in that track. The bass and the detail in the bass as well was really good. I've actually written in there that track left wanting for nothing from the speakers. Like they just played everything it had, and they played it really well and very detailed. It's a simple track to listen to with a sort of stomping beat, but it did everything that track asked of it, and it didn't want for anything, you know. So, and then I've got Zodi by Jidenna. Not that I'm expecting, you know, most to know. That's a bit more sort of hip hoppy, sort of based. He's great, you know. I think him personally is really cool. But yeah, that track is a real nice feel good track, and just his voice is very powerful. His voice is very sort of the vibrations in his voice, they're very separated, you know, quite a deep voice, and it came across really well, and really well sort of refined as well, you know. So there's plenty of detail in there, sort of lower frequency wise. The actual bass from the track, very good, isn't it? I have to write these things as they come out, okay? So yeah, real nice sort of heft and power to the bass in the track, but without mixing itself up with his vocal, which is you know, an impressive sort of performance, you know, not to get them too confused within the sort of sound that's being reproduced. But yeah, they were quite well defined between the two. Yeah, and then I've got vocal low frequency, incredible. That's a track that whether you're into hip hop or blues or R&B or anything like that, that's, you know, you should have a listen to that. There's a good sound. The actual whole album's quite a nice album and quite well produced as well. So, you know, if you listen to music for that reason, it's quite a good album to listen to. If you just want to feel good, then there's plenty of tracks on there that are quite happy tracks. Yeah, that is what I feel about the Contour 30i. I've only got one bad point really. I suppose the size of the crates and stuff, you know, that's just something you're going to have to deal with. You know, they're big speakers and they need to be well protected when they're shipped, and Dyn doesn't leave any I's undotted or T's uncrossed there. They really do ship them. The like I say, the only negative I have is they're a relatively tall speaker, 114 centimeters tall. The tweeter's about 10 centimeters from the top. So the tweeter sits, you know, around 100 centimeters from the floor. High frequency resolution and detail in the listening position gets much better when you're at tweeter height. Okay, so if you can, either try and shift the rears up to sort of lean them forward slightly to your listening position, bearing in mind that, you know, my ideal is about 60 centimeters from the back wall and about 3 meters away from the speaker, with them being around 2.5 to 3 meters wide, with a very slight bit of toe in. If you were to lean the speaker forward, you're only talking 10 mil on the rear spikes or the rear isoacoustic mounts that I put on these halfway through, to shift that sort of vertical axis position just down towards the listening position. And then because what you're doing effectively is, if you're sitting at sort of 55 to 60 centimeters, or if you sit quite low, you're in the mid bass's time domain. You know, that's going to get you first. So how that represents itself is the mid range gets a little thicker. You get bass and mid range millionths of a second quicker than you get the sort of high frequency. So if you wanna just give them a little tilt, that's a recommendation from me in this room. You know, your room might be completely different, but I would say that if I raise myself up about 20 centimeters, high frequency resolution gets 5% better, but noticeable, you know. But that, I would say that's with any tall speaker really. I get the same with stand mounts that are on you know, large stand mounts that are on decent sized stands. The Confidence 20, for instance, again, you know, if you lift yourself up slightly, you'll just get a better high frequency listening experience, you know. So, but that's all speaker placement stuff, I believe, is outside of speaker reviews, really. It's all dependent on the room and the scenario. So, yeah, the 30i is a killer for me. I really do think it is. At 7K, it's, you know, it's not a cheap speaker, so it really ought to be good. And it gets a thumbs up, double thumbs up from me. What a speaker. I'm you know, no bullshit. I'm gonna stay here now for probably another couple of hours because I've got a couple of new records that I want to play because I'm watching Stranger Things for the 4th time round. Whatever. And yeah, I'm high on sort of 80s synth at the moment, so I'm gonna stick around and have a little listen to that. Yeah, so yeah, the 30i, my review. This one will be a little bit shorter, so there's probably plenty of little cuts and splices because I do ramble on. You know, I want to try and keep these videos engaging, and sometimes, although we do have people that like my longer sort of review videos, they take so long to record and so long to edit, and we see a little bit less engagement on them. So yeah, I'll you know, as with anything, any advice, positive advice, I'm not, you know, we're not here to take stick, you know. Any positive advice, chuck it in the description. Let's go. All right. Yeah, Contour 30i comparisons in the comments. Let's see what you can do. Keep it relevant to this business. All right. Keep it relevant to what we sell. Don't ask me to compare them to, you know, the Hubble telescope. It's not achievable. It's not something I can do. All right. I'm Carl. This is Studio Incar with a studio hi-fi video, and yeah, Contour 30i. What a speaker. Take it easy, guys. The sun is out. Let's go outside, or let's stay inside and listen to music. Let's stop rambling on. Goodbye.